Hey everyone, how are you today? So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think everyone is aware of how the United States is declining. Nobody's really happy with the way things are going as far as the cost of products, housing, energy. Freedom is being taken away in a lot of ways. I guess some ways it's getting better, but how no one can really get out of the ruts they're in. Drugs are at all-time highs, both legal and illegally. Crime has been skyrocketing in the last 2 years. And everything seems like clown world. I mean, like, everything is becoming hyper political. Everything's being a political weapon, from academia to corporate America. Everyone's becoming an arm of the tyrannical state in the United States. You have to get in line with the party, and you have to go along with narratives. The media is obvious examples. Everything is getting to an apex, right? So much we could cover. It would take hundreds of videos. The point is, I think we're aware. And what's happening with our currency is probably one of the biggest, because the currency is the number one control system by people in power. It's not known to the general public that's what gives them their power, which is why it is the number one power. The military, a lot of people may think, is where power is derived from, right? Or that's the major control point. A country can exert its will on its enemies or even its populace with that, right? And then some people say it's, it's law enforcement. My point is something physical, something that's physical, but that's not it. It's the currency, right? And the law enforcement is here mostly to enforce the currency. We have the US dollar, which is a fiat, and it's the world reserve currency. It's the one that the whole world selects to use for transactions that are serious. If you want to make a loan, you do it in US dollars. Even if you're another country, this is a secret. People don't know, but other banks outside of the United States make loans in US dollars, and they make it out of nothing. So in Europe, in parts of the Middle East, all over the world, there are banks that are printing essentially US dollars without the US's consent. So the point is that it is the number one supreme currency, and here's the problem. It is coming apart, and how do we know that? In the last 2 years, the money supply has increased over 25%. It's over like 30% now or something like that. And it was the largest growth in such a short amount of time ever as far as its lifespan. Why? Well, because we had levered up so much debt, and so many companies in the United States, the federal government itself, other places all around the world that had corporations, and even other countries borrowed US dollars to an extreme, trillions and trillions. Through derivatives, the estimates are something like 2 to 4 quadrillion US dollars have been created through debt. And while some people have benefited in wealth from that because they're the lenders and they receive the payments, other people are the debtors. And the issue is that when you create currency through debt, it requires more debt. Because if I give you $100 and I make it out of nothing, and it's all the dollars there are in the world, and I say, you also owe me 1% interest, where is that 1% interest going to come from? You have all of the dollars. The answer is a new loan must be created for something else, and then that repayment plus interest will come out of that new loan. And it's a perpetual cycle that goes on forever. However, once the debt becomes so large and so big, it's an exponential curve that requires more debt at an exponential rate, which is what happened in the last 2-3 years and had been boiling ever since the 2008 financial crisis. The US dollar since 1913 has become 98% less valuable. 98% less valuable. 98% less valuable. What does that mean? You could have, in the beginning of the 20th century, lived off of something like $40 a month, right? And you would have been able to afford a house for 2 to 3 years worth of wages, which right now it's 7 to 8 years worth of wages. And you would have been able to, as a single provider, have a family at a huge size. I mean, not even like a 2.5 or, 2 kids, or whatever the statistic is. It's like the mom, dad, 2 kids, and a half a kid. Does it make sense? My point is, and food was cheaper, everything was relative to your earning potential more affordable. Not anymore. It's ridiculous. It's the currency is dying. They've extracted all the value out of it and from you. So we're going into a tightening cycle with the Federal Reserve, the central bank, to reduce the amount of currency in the system because they realize, we've kind of made too much, especially the last couple of years. We have to raise interest rates, make money more expensive. The problem is, everyone is so levered up in debt all around the world that reducing the amount of currency being created, or inflation, right, is going to leave them insolvent. They're not going to be able to come up with the money to pay off their own debts, and they will go bankrupt. And what could happen is a cascading event where you have hundreds and thousands of businesses that go bankrupt. Well, that would become a economic collapse in the United States, and even around the world, because if we end up falling, the rest of the world will fall because we're the financier of the world. Anyway, the solution is default, either by honest means or dishonest means. Either you're going to have the United States say, yeah, everyone, you need to be responsible and go into austerity. We're going to cut the budget for the federal government. We're going to stop taking out loans and issuing bonds. We're going to stop giving out loans to businesses who are not profitable. And you better figure out how to come up with the money, or you're going to go bankrupt and we're going to repossess all your stuff. That is one route. The second route, we keep printing, and we print into oblivion. Hyperinflation, Weimar Republic, Zimbabwe-style inflation, where everyone that the government picks will get bailouts and loans and stimulus checks to keep them solvent in paying off their debts. However, this will raise the price of everything because there will be so much currency floating around, commodities will skyrocket, and everything in the world becomes so expensive that no one's wages will be able to keep up, and they'll end up going into poverty even with $1 million in their bank account. So, what do you do if you're a politician? Well, you're about to be raided with pitchforks and torches and angry mobs outside of your government buildings because you have ruined the financial and economic system of a country, and they don't know what exactly happened, but they know to blame you because you're in charge. So, this is the answer. You go to war. And And when you go to war, you now have an excuse to print an unlimited amount of money. You can bring back all the manufacturing because we've sold it all off to other countries, and we've hired people at slave labor prices that are so low we can never compete, and they have no regulations. So you have an excuse to bring everything back in the name of war, deregulate everything so that you can end up building tanks and airplanes and bombs and ammunition and everything that a soldier needs to go fight somewhere around the world, so that your federal government can keep everyone solvent, and so that you can keep everyone distracted from the crisis that was just about to happen. This is Russia. This is going to be World War III of some type, or some huge calamity. Now, it's a lot worse than that in a lot of sense, because the rest of the world is going to dump these dollars if we go into a World War III. They're not going to want US dollars anymore, which will only make the inflation problem worse. China and Russia will immediately take all the US dollars they have, they'll burn them, they'll sell them off, they'll go buy something with real value, and then it'll raise the prices of everything dramatically. And the US only has so much it can do about that. And then other countries in the world will want, the ones that side with those enemies of ours, will take their currencies now and not ours anymore. And so it's going to be a mess, and that's called, well, what they're going to do is they're going to create an internal digital currency ran by the central bank so they can micromanage everything under this time of chaos and try and retain control over their currency system, which is their product they force us to use and they profit off of. CBDCs are going to be a big thing. They've been announced last year. They've been talked about for years. And it's going to be a currency that is created by the central bank, distributed by the central bank, monitored by the central bank, and given to you on your phones. And they'll be able to know exactly what you spend everything on. They'll be able to tax you completely. There'll be nothing under the table. And they'll be able to squash dissidents by cutting off their bank accounts or fining them directly to try and control anyone who speaks out against whatever war is going to come up, or it can even be another, silly pandemic or something like that. The point is that we're in a economic currency collapse, moral collapse. The country of the United States it's not the country that was founded, and the morals are too far from the people who created it, and they can't adhere to the systems that those people established because they had a different way of living. So there's going to be a regime change no matter what in the United States, and it's coming very soon. When I say very soon, what do I mean? Do I mean tomorrow? No. Do I mean 10 years from now? That's stretching it a little far. It takes time, and it's a revolving door. It's like a cargo ship that's out in the ocean that's hundreds of feet long. If you turn the wheel, it can take minutes before the ship starts actually moving in that direction because it's so big. That's what's going on. We're running out of time, that's for sure. If it happened in the next year to 2 years, or mostly started happening, I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how it goes. This war with Russia thing is a powder keg. It can go off any second. It'd be very convenient if these politicians pushed for a war like they're doing, and a huge chunk of their own population died off, because then you're not going to have to worry about them revolting against you. You can initiate martial law, control everyone. You can, wipe out all that debt that you created, because you'll start a whole new system over, and you can start it based off of a real wealth like gold, silver, or another commodity, maybe even a cryptocurrency. And it's too much of a benefit for the elites to cause a problem. There's too much incentive. It's not good. So everyone, I mean, you can look into this more. If you have questions, please leave a comment, ask a question. I'll try to direct you. Just start thinking about this stuff. This is like 10,000 foot view of the situation. It's very grandiose. It's very extreme sounding, but it's the situation, and you need to get educated, pay attention, and prepare. That's what it comes down to. I'm doing my best. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, literally. And I'm trying to do my spiritual best by relaying this information to other people so that they also can prepare. It's my responsibility as someone who's looked into all this stuff so much. And it would be wrong if I didn't. So that's it for today. Let's move on, and maybe I'll dive into this stuff in more details and more angles, but we'll see how it goes. Everyone, try to have a good day. Let's, I don't know, enjoy the life that you do have. So other than that, take care, everyone.